Okay. This is let me go where we finish the list. Okay. Okay, so today we will continue with the part of the triggers for high energy physics experiments. So, we already saw last time that triggers are used to in this experiment because we don't want to record all the information. We are not normally we have a lot of information that we are not interested on record, and the data volume in the current experiment is very large. And well, so in order to measure rate events, we should somehow select what information we want to record for further analysis. So for this, real-time triggers need to be introduced to select these interactions for permanent storage and discard the background. And there are some concepts that we will see. I think we will see a few of them here. Some of these key concepts are timing, the clock readout, the time, the trigger logic, and buffering. So these are the basic concepts that one has to know when we are considering a trigger system in an experiment. So it say the trigger system data acquisition. There is no a clear boundary because the readout system and trigger are very much related to each other. So, well, the most basic form of trigger, as we saw from the previous lecture and from the history, is basically a coincidence between two detectors, a coincidence signal. So here is an example in how are different schemes, like very basic uh, schemes of uh, level one trigger. So at the beginning, only coincidence between two detectors was enough, and that was in some cases the entire readout of the experiment. That for some cases it was good enough to measure the particle flux, which basically is the cross-section measurement. But then another layer of complexity added, it's one other detector, for example, some tracker detector um, that is um, that is in between some trigger system or make use of some trigger system that put some constraints on the measurement of this other detector that will be read out. So normally this trigger system is a fast coincidence which define the passage of some particle and also can define the interaction in case of collisions, and that is like the reference time for this experiment or for this measurement. So and in this scheme, the data is split into parts. One is the trigger that provide the fast and coarse signal of the measurement. Then the second part is the readout path that provides the detector response with a higher granularity or resolution, that measures more in more refined way the what is happening in the experiment. Okay, and well, the two of them are interconnected, no? We have the trigger system, the readout of the detector tracker, and then we have some system here that correlate the two of them. There are also higher or more modern scheme to do it. Is that use a fast logic that synchronously match the records or tracks or some drift chamber, for example, some tracks in case of pixel detectors that recognize some patterns in real time. So they need to be very, very fast and do a kind of a reconstruction to that to make to take the decision of record this event. No, this is a higher well, this is a reconstruction with high precision, and well, this is recorded for analysis later. Okay, so some of the general features of trial system that they provide experimental constraints for like spatial or timing and define the reference time uh, to select events that we are interested and reduce the background. So the other scheme, which is the third one that we have here, it's called the continuous sampling of a signal. So in this scheme, the detector has to be constantly sampled, and the logic of connected to this detector has to recognize patterns to and yes, they reconstruct the passage of a real particle and deal with the trigger simultaneously. So uh, okay, the well, in this case the reference time um, can be reconstructed from the track itself, or can and and also can use the can make use of other triggers to have some redundancy here. So well, in this particular case, the trigger and the readout are the same thing. So the trigger decision is made with the full resolution of the detector that is used for the trigger decision, make the trigger decision. And well, nowadays large experiments use a combination of these two schemes. Uh, some like fast trigger like this using scintillators, using Cherenkov detector, some fast technologies that are very fast, and then very fast processing on to recognize some patterns in real time to make like high level decisions in a very fast way. So another important feature that we have to take into account is the latency. So latency is well, using this as an example, the pattern that is seen by one detector that can measure a track is only available after some time where the particle crosses it, and in the case, for example, of a drift chamber, that has a drift time and that will take some time for the chamber to collect the information and process. The same apply for other detectors as pixel that they are very commonly used, as you know, as trackers. But well, not only for these big detectors for tracking, but also for trigger detectors. Even if they are very fast, they have some latency. So, and that introduce some different delays on the signal that are going to the processor. And well, one has to take into account this to match the information from the whole system. This latency, as I say, will vary depending on the technology of the detector, and then some system that evaluate coincidence has to be implemented, and well, for that, some physical delays are implemented, readout in pipelines or other strategies are done to match information from the different latencies of different detectors. So in the first stage of trigger, we have the so-called trigger level one. Um, this, well, depending on the experiment, they can have two, three, even four levels or trigger depending on the strategy of each detector. So the level one trigger is the prompt signal. This is the fast one. Based on of base commonly is based on in the identification of region of interest in a synchronous fashion. And well, this is talking about collisions of detectors, no? This level of trigger mainly is takes care of initiate the readout of the full experiment and transfer the information is transferred to the next level of trigger for or can even be for permanent storage, no? So for hadron colliders, uh, as you may know, in the state of the art, the interaction rate for this experiment is very high. So can be well. This brings a challenge because can easily saturate the processing power of the system, the computation, and the storage capabilities. So there's a lot of information from these high rates of interactions, and there's a huge amount of information that could be recorded. So then additional layers of selection can be well should be added to make a better selection. And okay, the triggers to separate interesting physics processing signals or from well understood process, that this well understood process are normally background. Such Okay, such indication is only possible if the trigger is aware of physics features of the event. So you should know more or less what understand what is happening from some known events in your experiment in order to be able to discard and background. And that is, for example, evaluate lepton contents, momentum balance, uh, individual particle momenta, and so on, no? And that is well, that means that you will take data from the detectors, different technologies, calorimeters, moon, tracking, and triggers, etc., etc. And that is to add extra layer, like a higher level of trigger to have a cleaner, more quality data. Uh, Okay, so experiments need to well, they have a certain physics goal, what they want to measure. They have knowledge about what is expected to be seen from the collisions, as we saw the last lecture. So there's an expectations or knowledge about how much and what kind of particles are expected in certain in a specific experiment. So that and when you know that, you can design your trigger conditions and do a mixture of them that and that you can evaluate simultaneously, no? And this information. Well, big experiments as Atlas, Alice, and so on, they are multi-purpose detectors, which they get information from several detectors. Mhm. And the most common strategy to cope that is the experiment have a central trigger that process the information from the detectors, and in this central trigger is execute the global trigger decision from all the experiment, and that's what happened is that this is a very complex task because you need to synchronize all your detectors to be able to correlate the information from all of them, even if they have different latencies, for example, or and different kind of information. So, and then and also the trigger decisions are recorded together with the data event from the physics or from the detector signals, and in a way well, this will be useful for physics analysis and in the later analysis of the physics. Um, So, okay, here is a table of an example of different types of detectors that one experiment may have, and depending on what the detector is designed to measure, you can you can put some trigger conditions to make one selection. For example, if you use calorimeters, you put trigger selection on energy, recognize jet patterns, for example. Uh, 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 this is calorimeter, electron identifiers, localized showers for trackings to get to um, do the selection of a certain type of tracks and momenta, select because of the vertex position of the collision in that experiment. Also centrality, that means that how much central was the collision in that event. So you can require different levels of triggers and type of information depending on the design of the detector. So here's you can implement a very large mixture and conditions to do the selection of data. Okay, in the case of colliders, we know that we have the collisions are somehow they are synchronized, and we have a clock from the collider system, which this clock should be synchronized to the collisions that they provide to the experiments, And in this case, that will be the reference time that the experiment have to make the recording of the physical events. So in this case, a collider use discrete time. So this discrete time is in the case of LHC, for example, are the bunch crossings. So in these bunch crossings, well, the colliders not well, these bunch crossings are normally in multiple periods of 25 to 100 nanoseconds, depending on the experiment. And well, the detectors ideally should be able to process and get the information of the collision in that time window, to do the digitization and put all this information to the readout system. Okay, so this in this scheme of the collider experiment, the clock give the reference timing for the collisions that we can use to record the information. Then also the not all the bunches that are in one field of the collider. So in the colliding experiment, it's are completely filled. That's for safety reason, to in order to extract the beam for the function of the collider itself. So and well, that will give us some estimation of when we expect collision in the from the collider. And for these cases, the simplest trigger is called the minimum bias, which is the lowest level, or the yes, no, not only the lowest level, but the minimum conditions that the experiment required to consider an event or a collision valid or good enough to be recorded. So these are the minimum conditions that the experiment requires to to start the readout of the detectors in the experiment. And normally these minimum bias triggers are the fastest. Okay, so there is a very important thing that one will experience in real life, not only big experiment, but also in small ones, even for prototyping tests, in beam tests. For example, one has to do this, take care of the timing of the signals that we are sending to our readout equipment, of the data acquisition equipment, which this is well, we have to work with the temporal alignment of the signals from the different detectors that we have, um, from the smallest experiment to the largest. So of course, well, still talking about the colliding experiment. The experiments basically, well, evaluate the coincidence signal from the sense bunch crossing. So there are, for example, these minimum conditions that are required, that the lowest the is- how to say it, well, the minimum conditions, but yes, for example, the one of the minimum conditions could be coincidence of signals in two detectors uh, from the same bunch crossing, and to, well, synchronize this for a big experiment. Well, it's a huge task, as I said before. So so in more when there are like thousands of channels in big experiment, and every individual channel have can have different distance of propagation of the signal. And in the typical cable, it's about 5 nanoseconds per meter of this propagation of the signal. And if you see the order of the magnitude of the propagation of the signal is close to the bunch crossing time, which is like 25 nanoseconds. Then the system should be able to cope with these small variations, or we should do a very good work on the alignment of the signals that goes to the data acquisition system. So the well detectors. Some detectors are fast, very fast, that are normally the considered as trigger detectors. Then there are others that are slow. They have a slower maybe position or technology that make the processing of the information slow. So one has to ensure that this fast detector, and normally one has to put some delay to cope the two signals and synchronize. Okay, a very common problem or issue that one has in the experiment is that the propagation of the signals are larger than the intra-bunch crossing distance, which is the distance between collisions in the collider experiments. So um, that means that the information from the detectors will not be, well, the detectors will not be able to process, send the signal, and make a decision faster than the next collision. If the collision time is lower than the propagation time of the detectors. So well, after we have synchronization, proper synchronization of the detectors, the detectors make use of some buffers. We will see later or in another lecture what is buffers in order to cope this problem, no? That the collisions come later than no no faster than the propagation time of the detector information. Uh, 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 okay, okay. Then when I will summarize here, I think it's no need to read all of this. Um, once we have a proper adjustment of the detectors, we will have some synchronization that with that we can calculate coincidence on with this information. So and then the information from the triggers is processed by a central trigger, and the decision is made. No. Um, In the case of separate timing of the no, okay, in the case of this type of architecture or strategy to make a trigger decision. The system implements some extra pipeline, which is kind of a buffer, which will allow to cope the trigger information from the fastest, because normally this is faster than this strategy, and make a selection of of some fragments of the readout to make a kind of a quick estimation of certain parameters or patterns recognized by the readout. In some of the more modern or for example, there are trigger systems that are being developed to make a decision, even recognize particle patterns with artificial intelligence and implemented, for example, in FPGAs that are super fast and they can recognize very quickly some patterns and make even a high level trigger decisions in kind of real time. So, uh, well, this is if you go deeper in this, this is a very complex task, no, in technologies that are implemented to make this. Then here one example, well, a rough example of how this looks in an experiment. So, well, I do a quick check on and how are the specification of the detectors that are installed in Alice. What are the characteristics regarding the speed or the readout rate for the tracking systems and for the trigger system of Alice, no? For example, TPC has I think is the slower detector from Alice, which have a very large dead time of 200, almost 300 microseconds. So if you compare this with the collision time expected, that is 25 nanoseconds, well, this is large. So the maximum readout rate will be 300 hertz, and this is a PP or a lead-lead collisions. Also, for example, the ITS or inner tracking system, which is a pixel detector in the most central part of Alice. The readout rate maximum lead-lead with lead-lead is 100 of kilohertz. So you see here already you can recognize the difference on the readout speed of the detector or readout rate. For example, this move on forward tracker has a readout of 4 microseconds, I think. Well, I had to check. I didn't had enough time to really confirm this. This is more or less what I thought. And well, in principle, the fast interaction trigger, which is the main trigger of Alice, there are is made of fast technology detectors. This one here is a Cherenkov detector and other two systems that are made of plastic scintillator that they are able to read out almost at 25 nanoseconds. And so this will be the well actually this is the minimum bias trigger of Alice that will send have the minimum conditions to tell the whole this system to read out the information that they got from the collision. So here I have a question for you. There are a list of things that will influence the readout speed of each detector. And you can you mention one of them or several? There are few reasons why that it can be.
I mean, the technology that is used or the size of the detector, for example.
That is one. Uh, one more or two more.
Well, some things like dead time and so on.
But that time can be due to what also? There's several reasons to the time. Okay, for example, that time can be again because of the technology that will not make possible to make a faster readout, and also the processing time of the acquired data, and the number of channels and so on, no? And I was about to say the position from the interaction point, but it's not influencing the readout speed of the detector, but the speed of the decision making of the trigger. But yes. From your
Also
comment, I
will
would,
influence,
sorry?
but then a decision of the like speed of the decisions of trigger, they also will influence the readout speed, because if decision is not made, then we are not writing data, new data, so this data will be just skipped.
Yes, but not so sure. But the readout rate. Okay, okay, good question, and not so sure, because if you have a detector that is far from the central processor of triggers, so you have a late decision. Okay, yes, I think so. You can have a misinformation. That's true. I think that is possible. Yeah, right. Thank you. Good comment. Okay. Okay, more examples with Alice detectors. And again, this is an example of the first level interaction or trigger system or trigger detector of Alice. Okay, and here, well, the important thing to sorry, the important thing to see, well, the first thing that I want you to see is the levels of trigger that Alice is requiring. So we have this these three low level triggers. The first one here is sorry, is the LM, which is called level minus trigger. So it's a very fast trigger decision that Alice want to have, and then the 0 level trigger and the level 1 trigger. So the the level minus trigger, which is the fastest, is provided by FIT, because this is, well, the detector was, this system was designed to in order to cope this requirement. When this was designed, was thought taking this timing of the signals going to the central trigger processor of Alice, from the detector to the central trigger processor of Alice, to take the fastest decision among all the detectors in Alice, no? So and this requirement is 425 nanoseconds. Then there are other detectors that are a bit slower, and for this other layer of trigger decision, it's 1200 nanoseconds required. So it is a bit more loose requirement of the timing, and we increase the level, and we have more relaxed requirements. So from these three detectors, actually only two of them cope this requirement, which are the detectors that are closer to the interaction point, which are these we have FT0A, which is at the one side to the interaction point. We have FT0C, which is in the other. These are at around 3 meters and 1 meter more or less from the interaction point, so they are very close. And the cabling from this detector to the readout system, it's about 20-30 meters more or less. So that will be like if it's 5 nanoseconds times 30, it'll be like 150 nanoseconds more or less induced by only cables, but we have the some more things that from the signal to the readout system, which are the front electronics of the detector. And then there are processing time from the electronics, which will add some extra timing, and then even cables from the electronics to the central trigger process of Alice. So all those things has to be taken into account to be able to provide the signals in according to the requirement. So, well, also FV0, which is a scintillator and is also close to the interaction point, copy this requirement. But the FDT, which are scintillator detectors that are around 17 and 19 meters from interaction point, is too far. And well, apart from the cables, because the position, the physical position is large, also the time of flight of the particles when to reach the detectors has influence on that. Okay. I put this question, but I think we discussed it already. Yes. Okay. So this is a detailed view and how the calibration of the detector, which I did with help, I think Boita maybe remember a little bit, of the fine tuning of the cables and the fine tuning of the cables to s- to have the signals on time to our front end electronics. So as I said, this detector, it was at around 17 or 19 meters from the detonation point. So this at around 50, 60 nanoseconds to the particles for the particles to arrive from the when they collide in the detonation point to the scintillator. Then we have the propagation in the scintillator. Optical fibers, the propagation in the photomultiplier from the cable to some patch panels which everything is connected. Then the cables to another patch panel in the place where the electronics is placed. And more cables from the patch panel to the front end and then well, actually processing time from these front electronics and the cable from the electronics to the control trigger processor. So in this case, to um, to align all the signals to the front end, all these cables had to be measured very precisely and cut them in order to have less than, well, around 1 nanosecond precision in on the propagation of the signals. And that's for, well, even better than that, in order to induce the less errors as possible in all these cables. And in what? Well, and that's it, I think. Yes, and well, yes, one has one synchronize these cables. They just well, the signals they just selecting on or doing the proper cables to adjust the latency of the signals to the front end. So this has to be done channel by channel. So this is a well a very important task. Okay. Okay, once we have the signals from the in the front end electronics, the front end electronics do the fears well has to process or yes to process the signals from your detector and send and this front end electronics has already there the conditions to send part of the trigger signals to one central trigger logic. No, wait. No, yes, I'm lying. No. Okay, central trigger logic is basically what are the conditions that you require in your equipment. That can be well, there's different levels. In the front end electronics, you can already implement some conditions or some trigger logic here. For example, in this detector, one can put a or condition when there is one of the two modules with signals or an coincident signal from the two modules. And this front end will take this decision and send some signal to a central trigger from the whole experiment. So, and well, that conditions, which can be the more basic one, is the AND, which is a coincidence condition, is the most used, and this is already it's a very common trigger logic, which is implemented. But depending on the detector, you can have many other conditions to be applied to take decisions. That can be, as I say, as an example before, can be and or multiple signals. Another common condition is majority logic. This one is when you have a detector with m channels, and you require you require a threshold of let's say n channels to be active um, to make some decision, no? So when you have some threshold, when you have I think it's okay. When you have this number of channels active, it can have some coarse correlation with the energy from the collision, for example. And and this condition will be when the energy that you measure in the detector is larger than some energy threshold. And this energy threshold has a correlation with the number of channels active in the detector. So and also topological patterns, and that is more for tracking detectors, which can recognize some patterns, some tracks, specific tracks, and provide some signal profile and make decision. Okay, so here the trigger, the first level, the trigger circuit has to provide synchronous decision with the duration of the bunch crossing interval. Well, that has to be fixed also with the well, we have to work with the what was the word? Delay? No, it was the with the latency. Sorry, I forgot the word. With the latency. But the decision, bunch crossing by bunch crossing has to be done. Um, well, for that you need fast computation, no? And general purpose computers cannot cope that those conditions. And for this, in experiments, the solution is almost all the time custom-made electronics. And okay, and for electronics and how they are used to design some trigger systems. One of the ways is to use lookup tables. That is a memory, is a single memory, and where you can put some any kind of combination of condition in the memory. So you send some signals to this memory, and then you have arbitrary outputs depending on the inputs from the detectors, no? Well, all the decision, which is a yes or no output, is encoded in the memory cell. Okay, in depending on the what you well these conditions stored in the memory cell will define the logic response. But the problem with this strategy is that is too slow. So so to send the code to the memory and then load the memory cells is too slow for most of the applications. Another way is to use the something called contents addressable memories or CAMs, which is a special type of memory that is faster than the normal a normal memory, for example, a RAM memory or something like that. So, and we have something that I think is the most commonly used nowadays is the FPGAs or field programmable gate arrays. This is a very high density chip where you can implement inside this chip a logic combination. This have a cells of basic basic logical basic logical gate basic logical modules that you interconnect inside and well this you can very easily implement on FPGAs, well in code marks easily, um, and they work a very fast rate, so even at the order of gigahertz. So and well they provide also a lot of flexibility because you can reprogram this logic if you need, no? There are also something called the digital to signal processor. I think this I haven't seen this that much. It's basically processors that are these processors are very efficient to do digital processing. So they can have embedded not like a normal processor that they need a lot of peripheral components to work. These already have many modules that are specialized to process quickly information. Um, and well, they are use a very high speed. But to be honest, I haven't seen that these are that use for the purpose of trigger. The most common thing is use FPGAs, but it's also common to see a combination of these two things, no? The FPGAs and digital processors that are fast. There are even chips that or FPGAs that have some digital processors integrated inside a single module. or even some processor that helps that you can use to make a specific task in the for the processing of information. And how it looks. This is the example of the board that is used for Alice trigger. So here is based on an FPGA. Well, it's based on an FPGA. And here there are inputs that brings the signal from the detectors to this central processor, and that this process all the information from all the detectors of Alice, and then take the decision at the different levels, no? And this is how it looks inside. So there's a actually this map, yes, this is the connection of all this board. So it's a very complex custom board developed by the CTP team in Alice. And okay, that's it from today. Any questions? No. Okay. Okay, guys. So thanks and see you next time. I think next week also will be the same
I
as.
have a, I just have a comment
Yep.
because next week I will be in Prague,
Uh-huh.
but on Thursday I don't have the time to attend the lecture because there's a collaboration meeting.
Okay, okay.
So maybe if we can shift the lecture for another day and we can meet in person.
Okay. So which day is okay for you?
Uh, let me check the
You have a
calendar.
tight schedule then?
Yes, a lot.
Okay, okay, good. I think
Either
have
I
extremely tight, but
Tuesday after 10.
let me check my calendar. Give me a
Yeah.
second. And you also, Victoria, will be at CERN or in Prague?
I should be in Prague, but on Tuesday I have meeting at 10, at 13, and on 16. So if it's somehow in between, then we could fit.
Give me. Okay, let me.
So on Wednesday?
On Wednesday, yeah, my first meeting on Wednesday is on 14, so morning is free.
Okay, I will share calendar just
Yeah.
to take note already. I don't know. I still recording? I don't know if I still recording.
Yes.